so it was last week that actually GitHub had their just main developer conference. They kind of released some products and just said like where they are and where the events of the past year, where they're going. And one product that they released was a thing called GitHub Actions. So first question here, who here, like raise your hand if you've worked with any CI platform at all. Okay, so like what ones have you used?
Circle, Travis.
Okay, I guess, just same. Okay.
CI platform.
Yeah, so good question. So CI is kind of taking a step back. CI is continuous integration. It's basically the ideology that when you work on a project with multiple people, you want to the main thing is you want to have convenience and you want to have a kind of security net that when you push code up to like maybe be added into a project that you're working on as a group, that when you push it up, your code doesn't break any other parts of the code. So for instance, say I go to, for instance, one project that I'm a part of is Gatsby. We have, if we look in here and I go over to a pull request, if I go into like one of these, you can see that this person wants to add some things. They've changed some files. But if we scroll down, you can see that there's all of these checks. And these basically say, hey, go run a bunch of stuff for me and like run some tests and make sure that everything is working as expected. So like they're doing an end test, integrate. They're doing a bunch of various tests. None of that's really necessary or needed to understand for this use case. We're just gonna, but just basically the thing that's here, all the tests are just running and there is a security net that's, hey, none of these are failing, so we can kind of, as a maintainer, I could say, okay, this code seems all right. It's not breaking anything. It's not like pushing anything or like saying, oh, now this part of the code, let's make it fail. It's not doing that. So
This happens automatically every time you modify the code.
yep. So like anytime I could push up a thing, or anytime like I make a pull request. So if I ask like saying like, hey, this project, I want to add these changes into this project. This will provide it will automatically run all these things for us. And then at the end, it's saying, hey, the checks have passed. So we're kind of like, it's a kind of checkbox of like, for the maintainer is like, okay, I'll merge it in, but I first have to make sure all of the tests pass. So GitHub Actions is another platform that kind of does this. It does have a lot more other things, but for today, I'm just gonna have a introduction into basically setting up a very simple workflow with GitHub Actions of doing the CI of setting up. So like when someone pushes code, it will go run these tests. So basically, they're just saying like what you can do. So I do a lot of this like stuff in this work, in this space. I actually build sites for this. And basically, alongside this, we're basically going to go through this tutorial here. So let me actually just go to the page. So we're basically, the stuff we're going to go through is we have a piece of code that already exists. It already has some tests. I can pull it down, I can run it locally, make sure the tests pass. But then we're going to go step by step and see how we can enable this automation so anytime someone pushes some code up, these tests will run and we can make sure that nothing fails. So if we go here, so if you go to LannonBR, so github.com/LannonBR/gars, which is GARS -CI-templates. You'll appear on this. So if you want to just watch, that's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this, use this template button right here. And basically this is going to say, it's going to copy all this code that's already here. We're going to copy it into a new repo, and then we're going to start writing some stuff for this. And then as well, if anyone wants to also pull up this page, if you go to gars.dev, click on this tutorial button at the top, and clicking up setting up CI. This is kind of we're just gonna basically go step to step through this tutorial.
Did you say fork it on GitHub? Good thing to do?
Yeah. So actually click this use this template button here. If you click that, yeah. So we're actually gonna go through it. So I'm gonna click it. It's gonna say, hey, we're gonna create a new repo based upon this code. So let's call it. I'm just gonna call it Syracuse.js. Syracuse.js GitHub action. GitHub actions. So I'm just gonna give it a title, and then repo for meetup at. Yeah, you don't need to put in the description. It's just for me to kind of just say what this repo is. So if you click that template, you click the use this template, fill it in the repo name, and then click create repository from template. It should go in here. It's going to start generating your repo, and it will plop in now all the code. So let me actually this is not required, but I'm just going to clone it down and to kind of show what we're working with. So here, yes. So if I open up Visual Studio Code, you can see over here we have a couple of files. So we have a index.js and also a index.test.js. So the index.js, we have a function of JavaScript that it's called remove dupes. So it's basically will take in an array, and it's going to return out an array that has no duplicate values. So like if I say give it an array of 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, it would return back the array of 1, 2, 3, 4. So it basically gets rid of all the duplicates. So that's all this code does. That's all you need to know, like what this does. Basically, this is a little bit of JavaScript. It's basically saying it's a little archaic of what this does. But all you need to know is it will take in 1, 2, 3, like this. It will take in any array. For instance, this is an array, and it will plop out this array, which is the same thing but without any duplicates. So that's what this does. But now we also have some tests. So we want to actually kind of get some examples and run through it and make sure that these things are what we do. So I'm using Jest for a test runner. It's basically just it's a tool made by Facebook. But these are basically just a bunch of statements saying, hey, we're going to give it a bunch of inputs. And then when it goes through, we want to make sure that's we want to actually say, here is what it's going to be passed in, and here's what you should expect. So here I'm saying if I give it an array with no duplicates, it should just return the same array. So I'm saying so I'm going to load in the remove dupes from that file. And I'm saying expect that if I call remove dupes on the array of 1, 2, 3, it will give us back the array 1, 2, 3. If I do the same thing with maybe 1, 2, 3 with 3 items that are the number 3, it should get rid of those. And if there's an array with no items, it should return back us an array with no items. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to basically download some dependencies. Wait for this. So we did that. And then if I do yarn test, let's run that. And you can see that's up there. There was basically 3 check marks. So we're saying hey, here's all the tests, everything passed. So it does what is expected. So that's kind of just where we're starting. And so with that, Let's jump up. So kind of just like this, we went through this setup step. And kind of starting out, we want to like just start and like say, we want to have a sample, kind of a like if then kind of statement. So the statement we want to do is like anytime someone pushes up code to this repo or makes like a port or something, we want to run the tests. So with that, you have like two like portions of a workflow. So we have like the if and then the then. So with that, the if is like the push, and then the then is the test. So we want to run the test past that. So here I'm saying like, hey, just we want to create a file, but to that basically describes these workflows. If you want to clone it down locally and do this locally, you can do such, but also we can also do it up on GitHub's editor that's on their site integrated. So if you go into your repo and you click on the Actions tab, it's going to pop up this screen. It's going to say, hey, you can get started with GitHub Actions. And it shows you a bunch of various things. So like it's, notice, hey, we're writing some Node.js. And it said, hey, try this sample workflow. And for the most part, we're actually doing what the sample workflow is actually going to show us. But I want to just go step by step and kind of like go through all the various steps and showing like what all the various fields mean. So instead of going down here and clicking this setup of this repo, you're going to click this setup a workflow yourself button up in the top right corner. And it's going to give you a lot of stuff already. I want you to just delete everything. We're going to just start with a blank slate, and we're just going to go like step by step. So kind of with that, like with, nice thing about GitHub's editor is if you do control space, you can see all, like you can actually, in GitHub's editor, you can see a bunch of things that they describe, like that's things you can work with in here. So to start off, like let's give it a name. So let's just call it CI. Since this is kind of just, this is our continuous integration, we're just going, let's give it a name of CI. So now you can see it actually, and also it gives us some like hints of like, hey, there's maybe something wrong here, or maybe you're missing something. So if you see here, it's saying missing required root key on. So like to start out, we want to kind of say when this workflow should be run. And with that, you can do such with the on keyword. So if you do on, and then you can do control space again. Basically, if you just keep on doing control space, it'll always pop up these, for the various place you're in, it'll pop up a bunch of various things that you can actually put into this. So in here, we see there's a bunch of these various things. So these are all the various things that you can actually trigger workflows on. But the one that we're going to really care about is push. And this is saying, this is a, so push is anytime a commit is made. So with that, we kind of now say, okay, we got the on step. And now we want to start setting up the kind of environment that we're going to be working with. So we can go in, and now if you see down here, we have jobs. So jobs, if you read what it says, is a workflow is made up of one or more jobs. So a workflow at large is this entire file. This is like we may do a bunch of various things, but it's like just this whole thing. Jobs are kind of like, you can think of it like of workers, of like various different things. So maybe you want to, if you maybe think about an assembly line, like an assembly line, rather than having one person or one machine build the entire, like maybe an entire car, you may have multiple machines doing various things. So like, and maybe doing them all at the same time. So like, Jen may be building one part of the car, Peter may be building another. And we like, from all these various steps, we get to the end result of doing all the various processes we want. Jobs are a similar instance where here, maybe we want to do a bunch of various things, but we want to split it up into various different sections. For this use case, since we're just doing tests, we will have one job, but you can actually have more than one job doing multiple things. So maybe if you want to say, like run tests, and then if the tests pass, maybe bundle up this piece of code and just put it on some server. This can allow you to like kind of write those various steps. So we're gonna do jobs, and if you do enter, it's gonna pop up a field. So the job ID, we're gonna just put like it's saying, hey, give a name to this job. So since we were doing just like one job, let's call them tests. Let's just call it tests. And if you tab in, so if you type in what you want and then you hit tab, it's gonna pop up a lot of various stuff. Kind of just, so now we're saying like, here's this one job and we're gonna just now start writing some various things that we want to do in here. So just taking a break, does anyone have any questions yet?
To get to this
Yep.
point, you go to create new file in the repository.
So you can actually go to the actions. So if you go up to the actions panel, and then in the top right corner,
That one.
yep, in the top right corner, it should say like git start like a new workflow. Yeah. So the nice thing is like in here, like the nice thing is since GitHub built this, they have all these various different commands. They don't have something like this for like local editors like VS Code or anything yet. I'm betting they probably will in the future, because it's like this is a very beneficial thing of being able to have like when you're writing these files, knowing like what fields and knowing how to work with it is very beneficial. And if anyone, like for instance Ryan or Gus, you've worked with CI platforms, these files that say like how to run these tests, if you see at the top, this is a main.yml file. That stands for YAML, which is, I'm pretty sure, yet another markup language.
YAML ain't markup language.
Oh, YAML ain't right. It's confusing. I don't like.
Silly that.
But if you notice, like as we are tabbing in, like you can notice that there's like two spaces, and like we're going two spaces, and like the indentation of these files are very important. So if you mess things up, it can get a little messy. So usually it's useful to have tools that keep everything that help you out and keep everything aligned.
Yeah, they want to eat Circle and Travis's lunch, and they're probably going to succeed at it because it's gonna work very well, and it already does. As you can see.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's with something like so. I guess some of the names we've been talking about, Circle, Travis, these are other CI platforms. These are the things that other. So GitHub is fairly new to this, basically running all this code, like running code that you write on their servers. Like for the longest time, you just have not been able to do that. But now they're allowing you to run these workflows that can act similar to something like Travis CI or Circle CI. Microsoft has another one called Azure Pipelines. There's a bunch of various different people in these fields, but this is GitHub's offerings. So we kind of now going through here. We have one we're gonna run. We have a job called tests. And now we want to kind of say, okay, what environment is this going to run? So if you look through these lists, you can see this runs on field. This is the type of virtual machine that we're going to run on. So when these steps are triggered, it will spin up a virtual machine for actually each individual job. So if you happen to have two jobs, it will actually spin up two jobs in your workflow. It will spin up two separate, completely isolated virtual machines for you. So if we do runs on, it's going to give you a bunch of various things. The nice thing here is if I'm going to just choose one, but the system that we're actually working with, it doesn't matter which thing here you are going to choose. I'm going to just do Ubuntu 18.04. And this is saying when you spin up, use Ubuntu 18.04 as the virtual machine. If you want to, say, use, like if I actually delete this again and do Control Space again, you can see that they have other ones like Windows. So they have the latest ones, which are basically, these are like the newest stable versions of whatever platform you use. So Ubuntu latest would be 18.04, which that is like the newest stable version of Ubuntu. Windows latest would match Windows 2019, which is Windows Server 2019. macOS latest is macOS Catalina. It's just the like latest. All these are the various latest versions. But as well, you can choose like maybe you want 16.04, or like there's these other ones you can do. You can also say. You can also actually do here. So these are all like VMs that they will spin up for you. If maybe you, like maybe Gus, you're working with some proprietary software and you don't want GitHub to have access to these, like your software. You want to run this stuff maybe locally on your own machines. This self-hosted option allows you to, like, if you maybe have a dependency that is proprietary, you don't want to give GitHub access to, you can choose the self-hosted one and you can run. It will then, it'll be triggered up here on GitHub, but then it will send the jobs and all the various things that it needs to do down to your machine, rather than running it up in the cloud. So it does offer, so if you want to use their hosted platform, they do provide it, but as well, they do provide a completely self-hosted offering as well. So I'm just going to go back to Ubuntu 18.04. And I'm going to push enter, and we're going to continue on. So if you look through here, there's a bunch of other various things. So we don't need any of these other than one specific one, which is steps. So kind of like diving deeper in, you start out with a workflow. This is the biggest, largest section. Then you kind of go down into jobs. These are groups of things that will create different things for us. If you go one layer deeper, you get to like the base, which are steps. These are like various different things you can run through to get the job done. So we're gonna do steps. And if you notice, if I pull this away, it's gonna it's gonna throw in the steps, and then it's going to throw in a dash. So in YAML, this means this is like an array. So I can like have many various different things in here. And we're going to just kind of go through, like we want to have multiple things. So like if we put in name again, we can now describe what our specific, like what our first step is going to be, what our second step is, and we can just go through all the various things. So I'm just gonna go in here. So I'm gonna just use single quotes for like a string to like kind of describe stuff. But I'm gonna say we want to, like starting out, we want to pull down their code. So clone and check out repo. So that's kind of our first step. If I exit, so if you push and enter, it's going to pop up that auto-completion again, but I'm just going to come back here and we're going to just go, like, well, I want to describe all the various things first, and then we will go in and actually set up how each one will actually work. So next, we want to download any dependencies. So install any libraries that we need for the execution. So name again. Install dependencies. Exit out again. And then finally, we want to have name, run tests. So if you look here, there we go. So when we go here, we say we have a single job called tests. It's going to be running on Ubuntu, and then we have 3 steps. We want to clone and check out the repo, we want to install dependencies, and then we want to run the tests. So that's kind of, it's fairly straightforward, but this is kind of just the 3 steps we want to do. So if I push enter on the first one, we want to first check out the repo. And there is basically 2, so I basically went into, I clicked at the end of this first name, like this first thing that has dash name. I clicked at the end, I pushed enter, you have these things. So now I want to go in here and actually say, what do you want to run? And there's 2 various different ways that you can run. So you can either run commands, command line, like basically commands in a command line, or you can use a packaged up set of code called an action, which is why it's called GitHub Actions.
When I press enter, I don't get that. I get this.
Well, if you push enter and then do like control space,
You have a
maybe.
syntax error here because there's
Yep.
a dash.
Quick question.
Yep.
So it looks like
Dash is not lined up with
which
32 dashes
that
above.
variable, which
And
type
there's not a
is
space.
name on this list again?
Yep.
If you control, if you did control space, it's, what is it again? It's a,
Yeah, so here, so this is just like a string.
okay,
Yeah, I'm just like basic, like these are strings. They don't have any real meaning other than for like when you go in and you run this, you want to like, you'll be able to visually say, this is this first thing, this is the second thing, so you can actually just visually see how, like, see each of these steps.
So is it like a comment almost?
Yeah, it's kind of a descriptor to say like this step is going to do all these things, and I'm going to call it clone and check out a repo. Or the second one, I'm going to call it install dependencies. And then when I actually go run this,
Nothing yet.
it will show up. It will show like the first one will show up as clone and check out repo. The second one will show up as install dependencies.
So it's almost like naming a function.
Yeah, I would say you kind of name it a function.
Oh.
Yeah.
yeah, so in other words, like you don't really have, like say control space, you always have to choose anything from, you can write other comments, I guess, in descriptors in there. You don't always have to choose whatever variables in, or type
Oh,
in
like
control
the
space.
the
Yeah,
things
you
that
don't have
the
to
things.
choose,
Yeah, these are the things that they give you.
Yeah.
But you can, if you don't want to just go and pick each one of these, you can just do it yourself manually. So I could come in here, I could create a new one, and I could say name, and I could just do it myself. But the auto-completion gives a little bit better, like it kind of helps you along as you're building these out. So the next one that we will run, so specifically for this one, we want to check out the repo. We want to basically clone and check out the repo. And with that, we're going to use this thing called uses. So in here, it's going to pop us out. But first of all, like we may want to, like we're maybe unsure of like how do we do something to check out the repo. So if you actually see on the right side of the page, we actually have a thing called Marketplace. This is actually a place where anyone in the world can upload actions that they have made. And here we can actually, like we may want to search checkout repo. So let's search maybe checkout. So here, there. I'm gonna search this one. Interesting, so it doesn't actually pop up in here. But instead of going, so let me actually just hop over to another page. I'm gonna actually just hide this again. And I'm gonna go to github.com/actions. So this is where GitHub provides first-party actions that you can pull into your repos and use. And the one that we're gonna want, if we scroll down somewhere here, is checkout right here. So if we scroll down, it's basically, this is saying it will check out your repository to this folder called GitHub Workspace. This is kind of where, on the runner, where your code is going to kind of run. So it's saying, so now we can actually, and in most actions, the convention is people, like, you want to write usage to kind of say, how do you use this inside your workflows? Here we can see, hey, there's this steps field, and it's going to say uses actions / checkout at v1. So let's just copy that over and use it. So we're going to go back to our code, and we're going to say uses actions / checkout at v1. So what this kind of means is the first part before the @ sign is the descriptor of what action we're going to run. So if you actually look at the URL, it's github.com / actions / checkout. So that's like, we're saying, like, look at this GitHub, this repo, and then after the @ sign, we're saying, hey, what version of this do we want to run? Because, like, we could run the newest thing always. We could, like, run it, the newest one always, but that may cause, like, they may make some break and change, and we don't want that to kind of break stuff. So by saying v1, it's saying this is the v1 tag of this, or release of this action. So we can say this will always kind of be consistent, and, like, then if we want to update to a new one, we can say maybe v2 or something like that. So that's going to be cloning down. So clone checkout repo, that's doing that. And now we want to come and install the dependencies. So we had uses. Now the second one we want to use, and here in this case, is run. So run will run any command that you basically pass it in. So if you've worked with, so kind of how we did similar on here, not here, here, is, okay, so I didn't see, like, a copy of that. But it's basically, we came in, so we cloned it, we opened it in VS Code, and actually I installed the dependencies with yarn. This is another package manager, but for all intents and purposes, we could also use npm. So, like, for instance, for here, let's just use npm. So if you want to install a dependencies for this package, we're going to do npm install. And that's just going to come in, download the dependencies, and have, like, now all the various libraries and such that we need to use to be able to run these tests. And last of all, I want to go in and say run again, and we want to say npm test. Well, I think let's just do run test, because I know there is some, like, shorthands, but, like, this is saying run the test command. So if we actually go, if I go over to back into this again, if I looked in the package.json, there is inside this, there's a scripts field, and it says test, and then it's going to run this tool called jest. So this is the thing that will go run our code for us. So coming back here, we're going to say npm run test, and that's going to do what we want. So other than that, this is really all the code that we need to go in and say every time we make a push, go ahead, clone the repo, get the dependency installed, and run our tests. So now, I'm just gonna, if you want to keep the thing main.yaml, you can keep it there. I'm just gonna call it CI because, like, maybe there's gonna be other, maybe in the future we could add multiple workflows that are in the same repo. So I'm just gonna give it a name that's kind of descriptive of it. And now if we come up here into the top right, there is a start commit button. And it's gonna say, it's says create CI, I'm just going to leave it as is. So this is basically, it's going to put this, if we don't put anything in, this is what it's going to commit as. But you do that. For this instance, I'm just going to commit directly to the master branch. And then we will be able to see actually how it runs. So if you commit directly and you can click commit new file, it's going to start, its file is now in the master branch, it's in here. And if you go back to the actions tab, you can see now in the top side, in the left side, we have a workflow called CI. And if you refresh it a couple times, you can see that you should be able to see that there is this workflow called this run called CI. We can click on that, and we can see that some things are happening. So let me see if I can zoom in and then scroll down. So you can see over here the various things. Yep. So you can now see it has all of these, a bunch of these various things. So the workflow at large is this entire page. On this left side, we have all the various jobs we want. Since we only had one job, we're gonna have it. We only created one job called test. It's gonna appear there, and then this is gonna be all the various steps. So if you notice, there's this setup job step. This is basically just setting up. This is like just the default thing that GitHub will say, oh, I need to pull down some stuff, so it's the environment is already set up for us. And then so we do that. And then it will go and say clone and checkout repo. So then we said go use the actions checkout at v1. And it'll say, okay, I'm gonna go run actions checkout v1. And you can see here that we have some Git code, it's setting some stuff up. So it initialized repo, it cloned it down, and then it switched to this, it says switching to 1F4BD. That's my commit. That's the commit of what we just pushed. That may be different for other people, but this is kind of just saying this is it's checking it, it's basically setting up and making sure that the environment has the branch that we have, the commit that we just made. So it's saying there's also some things saying like it's in a detached head, but
It says you are in detached head state. It's a lovely thing to read.
Yep.
It's okay in this case. But
Yeah.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah. But now it's saying, hey, its head is now at this, create CI. So we're at the place that we wanted. Now if we open up install dependencies, it's gonna go do what we want. So we said run npm install. So now we'll come in and it's gonna run npm install. We had some, so it looks like there's some warnings, that's fine. I go in, it's going to, like there's just a lot of warnings, it's fine. But you can see now it's at 461 packages. Now, that's a lot of packages that it audited, because if you've ever worked in the node space, one library imports a bunch of libraries, and those libraries import a bunch of other libraries. It expands very rapidly. But basically it came in and installed all the various things we want. And now if we scroll one more down, we can see run tests. So now we say run npm run tests. And then it's going to go in and it's going to say, okay, I'm going to go find the thing in our package.json. It's going to go run the test, and it's going to say, okay, go run jest. And you can see here, if I go back to VS Code, this code right here, so this pass and then the check marks is also right here. There's pass, there's the check marks, everything's good. And then there's a thing just basically clean up the environments afterwards. But you can see that now everything's all set. So we've made a commit, it will run through these tests, and now everything's working. So a good way to test that this actually still works is, let's go in and break some code. So let's go over to code, and let's go into the test file. So nice thing is you can change this to however you want to break. So this is an example given to the reader or the people in the audience. Go edit, let's go with this test right here, this say array with dupes to return smaller array.
Why don't we break the function, not the test?
You want to go break the function? Let's go break the function, sure.
How to get there?
Yep, so like I was back here in the main thing. So let's go, yeah, so Gus was suggesting, let's go break the function. Let's go break the actual thing, the thing that's supposed to work.
Yeah.
So let's go in here. You're gonna click, so you're gonna go in here, and then you could click this pencil thing that says edit this file.
You should.
Okay.
My workflow failed.
Oh,
I
nice.
think I might have made a mistake, but I don't know
Okay.
how to.
Well,
edit
yeah,
it.
so what does it say?
I might have made mistakes in that
Okay.
pencil file. So how do I like? Edit
Yep, so it says every step must define a user to run. So if you go up to, okay, so Jen actually has something that we want to look at. Maybe your workflow fails for some reason, you want to go back and edit it. So if you want to go back and edit your file, you can go up to the main directory, go to this .github/workflows file, click on ci.yaml or whatever you called it, and this is how it is, and you can click on the pencil on the right. So this is kind of just how it should look. Yeah, but it's good to know like just where when you want to go back to it and just edit the file.
Yeah,
Where it
just
is.
edit the file like you would on.
Yep, just edit any other file.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. So if you're still editing the file previously, if you go then up to the top right corner, so like if you are in this kind of view, actually since
I think that's right, because you're right, this is your.
There's a chance did you have to download anything for the actions /checkout? You don't have to, right? It's
nope,
just
you
calling
basically
the
you just tell it I want this action. You don't have to download anything per se. You don't have to. You just say this is the thing I want. Go run it for me.
Cool, so that's the new action.
What is it?
Oh, I see.
NPM stand for?
NPM stands for Node Package Manager. It's basically a place where a lot of various libraries that are built with JavaScript are like kind of a library of where you can pull all these various things down.
Once you have all that typed in, start commit or?
Oh yeah, if you click on start commit and then click like commit, it will then save this file to this repository. And then if you go to the actions tab, it'll be able to show up since we just made a commit, it will start going and running this workflow.
Did you have to create the V1 tag at some point?
So this is something, yeah, so the V1 tag, this is actually a Git tag.
But if we used it as to make a new one, it should already have that?
Well, you just have to kind of here, you just have to kind of write, this is uses saying, this is what we want to go run.
Yeah.
So you basically, if you write actions checkout at V1, you don't really need to do anything.
That's GitHub.
It's GitHub. It's a convention that GitHub is saying hey,
Okay.
there will be a V1
And it'll
branch.
look the same forever.
Yeah.
If they change it, it'll be called V2 or whatever.
Yeah, they can change. As well, here, this is just a branch. I could also say master, which is the main branch.
Of your repository?
Of their repository.
Of theirs.
Yeah, because so it's referencing this is their action that they built, and I'm just pulling in. So think of it like a package that we're pulling in, and this is saying what version of said package.
So is actions like their GitHub username?
Yep, it's their username. Yep.
One thing that was really interesting, and when I did my actions,
Okay.
is I had pretty much the same text as you, but my thing was failing because of indentation problems.
Yep.
That actually matters.
It does.
That's really interesting. I never
Yeah.
thought
So
of that.
YAML is very similar. Have you worked with Python?
A little bit.
Yeah. So it's similar to that, where in Python, indentation matters very, very much. Okay. So so I'm just gonna go in. So that's kind of what we did here, but as we were saying, let's go break something. Let's go break it and just see what happens. So like in index.js, there is we're gonna go back in here and we're gonna edit this file. So we're gonna change something up. So instead of remove dupes returning this weird thing, we're just gonna return the string Syracuse.js. Like I'm gonna say, anytime you pass anything to this, it's gonna return Syracuse.js. Now, if anyone knows, like this of course probably would break all of our tests because we're passing something in and we're passing something completely different than what we expected to return, which is good. So we can go in here. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna scroll down to the bottom. I'm gonna just give a commit message. So intentionally break tests. And instead of committing directly to the branch, I'm gonna click create a pull request, create a new branch and commit this to start a pull request. So I'm gonna say let's create a pull request to kind of just, we want to add these changes in, and then I'm just gonna call it break tests. Just give it a name. And from that, I'm gonna click propose file change. So I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna click create pull request again. So I'm just gonna click through there. And now we have a pull request on this repo. And you can see now there's this thing called some checks haven't completed yet. You can see we have CI test. That's the thing that we've already built, and we can actually click on details and dive in and see it run. So if you see when it's the orange circle that's spinning around, that basically means that it's running. You can see that actually it does stream the logs. So if you want to just watch it in real time, you can actually do it such. But basically it's going to download the dependencies and then it'll go in and run the tests. So now it comes and run the test and we can see, there's an X marks. It's failing, things are breaking. And that's good because that's what we expected. So if you actually open this up and scroll this down. Yep, there we are.
We got it.
So just checks.
Yeah.
You can see that. Yeah.
Yep. So now we can see, hey, all of our tests are failing. We expected to see the string, the array 1, 2, 3. We got Syracuse.js, and that happened. This is where, in that test, where it broke. Same thing. It expected that, we received Syracuse.js, and expected this Syracuse.js, yada yada yada. Everything's breaking. So now we can say, now want to go back up to the conversation pane. Maybe a maintainer of this project can say, oh, the checks are failing. That's the tests are failing. That's not good. We should hold out on and talk to the contributor to figure out what's going on. Why are these tests failing? So for instance, in here, the tests are failing. So let's kind of go into, if you actually click on the break tests right here, I'm gonna go down and click back on index.js. I'm gonna actually open up the history so I can go grab the context, the initial version. So I'm gonna actually copy this back again. We're gonna go in and we're gonna go fix the code again. So instead of Syracuse.js, we're gonna put the code that was previously there of the array with a triple dot, new set array. So, and if you want to go grab it, there you go here. If you clicked on the history pane, the button on when you were seeing the code, if you click that, click on initial commits, then we can go in and just copy the code again. So now we go in and we're gonna go change these things again. So we're gonna now fix things. So fix code. We're gonna commit again to this branch because this is in the PR that we are making. We're gonna commit it again. We're gonna go back to pull requests, go back to intentionally break tests. And now we can see, since we just pushed another thing, we can see, hey, the tests are running again. So we're gonna just go do a check run again. We can dive in again to the test. We can see how things are running. And now we can just kind of wait here, and if everything works, the test should be passing in again, and then we would have the comments of, okay, whatever this feature was, it's like now it's passing, all the tests are passing. We have the security that it's not breaking anything that was previously written. So now, if you see here, run tests, there's a green check mark. You can see everything's passing, so tests, 3 pass, 3 total. So everything's working. We can go back to conversation. We can see, hey, all checks have passed. We're good to go. We'll merge it in. So let's just go in, merge it in, and now we're good to go. We added it into the main code. So that's kind of that. There was one extra thing that you can actually do in here to help out a maintainer even further to make sure that stuff is never actually pushed in as a push in if someone contributes. So if I go into the settings pane, if you scroll up all the way to the top, click on settings. In this left hand side, there is a thing called branches. And then there is this branch protection rules. So this is kind of saying hey, we want to make sure that no one merges in stuff into master without a couple of things that we want to make sure happens. So if you click on add rule, it'll bring up this interface. We're gonna say what branch we want to do this on, and we want to do it on master. So that's the branch that we're gonna be working with. And then if you scroll down here, you can see this second one of saying require status checks to pass before merging. If you click that, and then you can actually see down here, hey, it found some status checks in this repository, and we can see there's tests. That's the job that we wrote in our workflow. If we click that, that will say now this is required. So now, if a normal contributor, if a maintainer of this project comes in and they see there's an open PR, for instance, let's just create this. You have to put in your password to basically just say it's all good to go. But if I go into index, let's edit things again. So we're gonna add, maybe we're gonna add a 8 at the end. So if we do .8, we'll add just an 8 randomly to break the test again.
Oh, we have to give it a name.
Yeah, the name would matches what branch you're doing, and for here we want to do master because we want to do the main branch. So I'm going in here. I'm adding just a random thing called 8. You can break it in however you want again. But if break this again, we're gonna create tests 2. We're just gonna create another PR. We're gonna create a pull request. And now you can actually see that under here that's saying, hey, required statuses must pass before merging. And this now gives you another layer of security of saying, hey, these things absolutely must pass if you want to get this in. So maybe you want to have, you may want, for your project, you don't want someone to just, a maintainer to come in and say, oh, it looks fine, but the tests maybe don't pass, but that's fine. And then click the merge button, and then things start breaking. You don't want that to happen. Yeah, so it looks like it's currently running, so I'm just gonna wait just a little bit more.
I have a question.
Yep.
So I'm getting this.
Yeah, so in that field right there,
I do have to write this thing.
yeah, master.
It's master, okay.
Yep.
So if I try to merge it directly, not using a pull request, it'll still just let me merge breaking changes into it.
I'm pretty
And then
sure.
it'll finish the check later.
Yeah, if you
And you say the word
so
master
here
there,
if you
it's
do
all
on locally with Git, you could just merge it in.
And then I could still merge it all together.
Yeah, and you can see here it's saying as an administrator I still have access to it because it's like a force, but it's certain times you may need to merge something just on the whim because but if a person does if a person has access to this repo, they have access to do merge requests, but don't have admin access, so they have like just a maintainer role. They won't be able to click this merge button. But since I have admin access to this repo, I can merge it, like I can force it merge. Yeah, but otherwise, like you can see now, it's saying, hey, the checks failed. I can go into the details. I can go figure out, I can scroll down, I can click run tests, and I can see, okay, why did things break again? Oh, because there's now an 8 at the end. So we can see why the test broke. But if I was an administrator, and I was just like maybe a maintainer of this repo, then this button, like this merge pull request would actually be grayed out, and I could not click it. I just couldn't click it because it's basically, we set up some stuff saying, hey, don't allow merges unless everything passes. So yeah, I'm just gonna close this pull request because like, you know, maybe we didn't want this, so we're just gonna close it. But otherwise, that's basically it. So we kind of went in, we had a project already, we set up some infrastructure to say anytime a push is made, whether it be in a pull request or to master, it will start the workflows, it will go run through our tests, and we can now have a sense of clarity of making sure that when we go through things are tested and things will, like as we add changes, we can know that, oh, this new feature broke these other features. So it really brings like a sense of security around this.
Thank you, Ben.
Yep.